We are Jane and Stephanie from Tipperary Studies here in Rossmore Community Centre collecting stories from the locals for Heritage Week 2025.
Stephanie here with Liam O'Dwyer from Rossmore parish talking about old places and famous people that he encountered throughout his life. Excellent.
Yeah, okay.
So Liam, you have a list there of sort of important structures and bits and pieces in the parish. Do you want to tell us about them?
Yeah, let me go over it anyway and see what. In the past, there were 5 treameries in the parish, and if you like to name, we might name them Clogher, Capamora, Torreen, Glenlock and Rossmore. There's no treamery at all there now. Another thing, there were 5 castles in the parish, and they were all built by the O'Dwyers of Kilnamanagh. They're going way, I'm not sure the years, but it's a long time ago anyway. That was before Maud took over in Dundrum, Colonel Maud. There were pubs, there were 13 pubs and 2 shebeens in the parish that we know. The shebeens are back up the hills, so we had to too far for anyone to come to down to the pub, you know, they're about 4 or 5 miles from the village. There are 13 pubs, 2 shebeens, there's only 3 pubs in the parish now. Well, I can remember back in the 70s, there were 5 petrol pumps, which was only 1 now, which you'd think to be the opposite way around with the amount of cars out there. There are no diesel, it's just petrol only.
So going back to the creameries then, how did the farmers decide which creamery they were loyal to?
You kind of, you went to the nearest creamery to you, and then there were a lot of kind of politics as well. So there were different, Torreen Creamery was a part of Drumban Creamery, and the rest were Tipperary Co-op, which is on Tiptown, and they had a few different names, and Cleves, and I can't think of the other ones. But down, the creamery down in Rossmore here, before it was a creamery, it was a woolen mills where they made suitlins and blankets, and it was very well known in its time. You know, there's an old saying around here, the real Alley Daly, and it was Daly's own the mill, you know, so if you had an Alley Daly suitlin, you had top class anyway.
Yeah, because I was looking at the maps before we came in today. One of the big houses there were 2 mills attached to it. So there was a carding mill.
A carding mill in the earlier times,
a tick mill.
Yeah.
Would have been the other one.
A ginning mill, ginny and woolen mills.
Yeah.
But
was there a lot of like sheep farming?
Oh, there were a lot of, and up the road from the mill there were tenement houses, and there were about 25 families lived in the houses. So about 100 yards over from the house to a field, and that field was known as Goat's Park at the time. All the families had their own goat, and it's still known to this day as Goat's Park. So that's nearly almost 200 years later. So you know the name. A lot of fields like that, the name of the field stuck with it. You know. And,
Can you think of any more?
Had to be the Longfield, and maybe to be field called after somebody's name, just say Butler's Field or O'Brien's Field, you know.
Yeah.
I can't think of many more.
There's some interesting townland names like Western's Lot.
Yeah, Weston's Lot.
Yeah, Western's Lot, yeah.
How that came by was there was a man called Weston, and he was the gamekeeper for Maud and Dundrum, and he gave that bit of land. Like other places in Cashel, if you ever heard of Waller's Lot, Waller was a man that looked after a certain area, and the landlord gave him his lot or whatever. And
that's very interesting.
The woolen mills, how they bleached the blankets at the time. They went around to local people and collected urine, and they bleached the blankets with it. Probably a bit smelly for a while, but they washed it out then again. You know, and they got so much a gallon for the urine. So at the time the they kind of couldn't figure out the small families had as much as the bigger families, so they're watering it down a bit. Anyway, that's the, so that's.
That's brilliant. And would they have gone to like, the schools or the convent or any of those, in bigger towns? Would they have travelled out from here to collect the urine?
No, I think just the local area.
Local,
That they were.
that's very
The fella used to call around on Monday, and you're on the P today. So that was the.
That's brilliant. You were telling me outside before we came in here about Dermot O'Dwyer.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, Dermot. He was first cousin of my father's, and his father was a creamery manager in Rossmore, so. His father got promotion. Dermot was born about, I think 1902 he was born. And his father got promotion, got a job in Dublin. So the family moved to Dublin. And he got involved in the IRA and that. And he was in Croke Park on Bloody Sunday, and you see what happened, and kind of, as they say around here, rose the dander a bit, So he was already joined up anyway, but he was setting a bomb under the Black and Tan stroke, and they spotted him, so they riddled him with bullets. And his uniform came back to Rossmore. He died, I think, 2 or 3 days after that happened. But the uniform came back, and a grand-aunt of mine, there were 2 grand-aunts, and one of them used to have the uniform. She used to have it every morning. She used to hug it, and they were, it was full of bullet holes and blood stains. So when the other one got her, she was gone to town. The one that used to hug the uniform, the other one burned it, which is a pity. But she'd.
And they were his sisters.
No, they were his first cousin. Oh no, sorry, they were aunts.
Yeah. Wow.
And Sean Tracy used to stay around this area. Sean Tracy was a second cousin of my grandmother's, and he used to stay over. We had a forge at home, and a forge is a good place for people on the run. Dan Breen used to stay over only a small bit, 100 yards over at my granduncle's house, and there were other lads, Sean Hogue and all those people. My father said in later years, when he was only a young fella, and he can remember getting up out of the bed at night. He was about 12 years of age at the time, and letting men come in. They were lads who were on the run, sleep in his bed, and he had to get out and sleep in an armchair or something, And that's the way the local people, they fed all the lads who were on the run, and they could only barely feed themselves, some of them, but that's the way it happened anyway.
Yeah, but people knew where to go.
Yeah, they knew where to go,
Yeah.
And Sean Tracy was, as I said, he was my grandmother's second cousin. And my grandmother's brother, he huddled with Tipperary, Anthony Carew was it, yeah. And Anthony was a Tipperary county secretary from 1908, I think, up to 22. He won an All-Ireland medal in 1908 himself, so that was the connection there.
Busy family.
Yeah.
Would he have hurled with Rossmore then, or was he somewhere else?
Anthony huddled with Tullis Blues.
Okay.
And there were a man down the road here, Tim Gleeson, he was from Clonny Ross, and bought him in the locality. And they played with Tipperary, and Tim also won an All-Ireland medal in 1906, and he was the county chairman, and Anthony was the secretary, so from a small area. And just about 200 yards from here, there were 3 mid-final played. When the mid was formed, this was the first play, and the 2 boys are from the locality, so they got, I think the first mid-final was Tullis and Borrisalee, and I'm not sure.
What year would that have been?
Should have been sometime in the 1911, and 1908, I think. And there was football in 1910. That was.
So the castles then, if we go back to
The castles. Balloch was probably the nearest castle, and that's on the Balloch to Knockavella Road, and you'll see it at the left-hand side, and it's it's kind of like a three-story castle, and the walls are still there in part of it. The other castle was in Ballymore, and there's not much of that left, only kind of small bit of wall. There's another one in Milltown. Then the one in Clogher, you probably
that on the map there,
yeah, and the one in Cloneyharp as well.
Okay.
And they were all built by the O'Dwyers of Kilnamanagh.
Would there be any reason for them having been built in those areas? Were they along a river or anything like that? You know?
Actually, the only one beside the river is Milltown.
Okay.
And no, all the other ones are out in the country.
Countryside.
And actually, another thing about the area, Balloch, there's caves in Balloch, and they go from, they were a quarry in Balloch, and they go from under the road from Balloch to Knockavella, so they're about 20 feet down, and they go off down underground. They're narrow enough caves, and actually, during the troubled times, they used to keep the equipment there, you know, whatever they had. Yeah. Equipment used to be in there, and there were a band called the Balloch War Pipers, and the pipers kept their equipment in one of the sheds of where the quarry workers worked, and the Black and Tans destroyed a whole lot, except for one set of pipes, and that's still around. If Father Paddy Ryan Mason was here with you earlier, but he had that set of pipes. Why he had that, one of the fellas wasn't too good to play, so he took him home with him to practice, and they were the only surviving set. And Father Paddy got him done up there about maybe 10, 15 years ago, and they're still. And the Balloch War Pipers at the time, if you've heard of the Cormac brothers, they were hung from Rossmore, and they were brought back from Nina. They were reinterred in Nina, and the funeral was massive. From Nina back to Rossmore, the funeral was about 4 miles long, and the Balloch War Pipers were one of the bands that led them back. Some part of the way probably didn't go all the way, but you know, that's the way. That was very sad.
Yeah.
You know.
That's brilliant. That's great stories.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have you anything else? The 1920 Humber.
Oh yeah, the Humber. Michael Ryan of Slatefield had, I'm not sure the year was 1918 or something like that, and it was used in the Michael Collins film, you know, and it was driven by the man Michael Ryan of Slatefield, which is just down from Ballydyne. Ned Kelly, the Australian, I don't know what you call him, highwayman now. But his grandfather came from up the road here, about 1.5 miles, and they went from here, from Stewk is the name of the place, and they went out to Ballyshean, which is between the Horse and Jockey and Cashel, and then they moved on to Myglass, and his son, I don't know, was it Ned was his name, and he was, I'm not certain, but he stole 2 pigs anyway, and he was deported to Australia. So he kind of robbed the rich and helped the poor, and he shot James McAvoy or whatever the song goes. Anyway. Another one is Mel Gibson. His ancestors came from just about 1 mile up the road here, and Mel Gibson had a lot of relations out still in this area. And another bit was Gallopin Hogan. Have you heard of? He was a highwayman as well, but he led the army from around this area back into the Nohal, Latin, Kilteely, back into Limerick. The Sarsfields riot was and back up there, there's what you call a bridle path, and the bridle path is about 6 feet wide, where you can only travel it with a horse and bridle. You know, you can't. There are very few horses, carts at that time. You know, so and.
And was that along by the river? Or?
No, only in places to cross the river, maybe in different areas. And most of the area from here up was commonage land one time, you know, back in 200 years ago, maybe more.
Okay.
Then they just started building up ditches, and there's a few other interesting places. Powell Nash is a waterfall. It's about 20 feet of a fall, you know, and it's nice scenery around that.
That's very interesting to have a waterfall and the caves and.
Yeah, there's a cave beside it, yeah.
Yeah,
And there's actually a cave beside that waterfall as well.
Okay.
And I think it was filled up at one stage when cattle went into it and they couldn't get the cattle back out. And I think if they, to go get the cattle back out, you'd have to get inside them, so you couldn't do that. So I don't know that they ever come out of it.
Okay.
So they filled up the cave then. Actually, there were faction fights around
Okay.
this area. Families from here might go to Kappa White, and one time, this is the old school here, and at that time there were hardly any secondary schools, so you went to school, and you were going to your 16 or 17 maybe, and they took a young fella from the school here to go in and fight in Cashel. The races at Cashel were on, and he went in to fight, and he got killed, and you know, he got bang of a stick. There's usually blackthorn sticks they used to fight with that time. And, you know, they often took part. You know, it was mostly race horses and fairs and that, you know.
Okay.
Actually, my great-grandmother met my great-grandfather at a faction fight. And I don't know whether they were
Spectating, I hope.
whether they were one family or, but it was at the faction fight they met anyway.
Okay. That's
And,
brilliant. And they were obviously arranged fights, were they?
oh yeah, they'd be arranged fights. Somebody might insult some member of a family, and the word would pass around, you know, and such a lad insulted our family, and we'll go and settle this out at the fair of Kappa White or whatever. So that's the way they hammered each other.
That's brilliant.
Actually, Kappa White did a reenactment of the faction fight there a few years back, and went very well. They went to America and reenacted the fight in the streets of New York. So, you know,
That's brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much. That was
no
brilliant. I love that.
so some other time I might think of it.
So that brings our conversation to a close. To everyone listening, thank you for joining us and helping us keep these stories alive through your interest and support. A huge thank you from us to the Rossmore community, whose generosity in sharing their time and knowledge made this possible. Your willingness to share your memories enriches us all. We are also deeply grateful to the Tipperary County Council Heritage Office for funding this project. Again, thank you for listening, and until next time, Slán a Gaibh go léir.